Hey guys, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today. And this time around, we've got a special sneak preview of some upcoming toys coming out from a very big film franchise. And when I'm talking big, I'm talking kaiju levels of big. Today, we're looking at 4 of the new action figures coming out from Playmates based on the upcoming film Godzilla vs. Kong, which is set to release in May 2021. Playmates was kind enough to send us 4 of these figures in advance. We had the basic figures and the giant size figures. 2 different scales, 2 different price points. But before we talk about the figures themselves, let's talk about the packaging. And the packaging is fairly simple on all of these figures. There's no plastic windows here. You're immediately seeing the figure and you're going to be immediately able to touch and feel the toy if you're buying this in a store. So that'll be your first chance really at being able to see them up close in person for yourself. But again, the boxes are very wide open, which is very nice. They're kind of interactive. You get to actually feel all the texture and things that are on these toys. We've got just very basic packaging. We've got a logo and the marquee behind the figure, as well as in front of the toy. And that goes across for all of the scales. They're more or less almost identical, in fact, when you look at them from the front. The back is where things get a little bit different. The basic figures include a picture of the toy in action, what it's supposed to be doing, as well as showing it off the battle damage reveal gimmick, which is really cool. We'll talk about that once you get these guys loose. And you also get to see the other figures that are joining Godzilla and Kong in this line, because there's 2 other versions of Kong and Godzilla, and 2 additional monsters. There's the Skullcrawler, who we saw in the last King Kong movie, and there's the Warbat, who I think was also in the last Godzilla movie, but don't quote me on that one. I don't really remember him too well. The back of the larger scale figures just includes a very big photo of Godzilla vs. Kong battling on top of what looks like a battleship. So spoiler alert, looks like those 2 are going to be fighting on a battleship at some point, and they're going to cause a lot of havoc. Both figures also have the same description on them, which is legends collide as Godzilla and Kong, the 2 most powerful forces of nature, clash in a spectacular battle for the ages. The monster war rages on the surface and deep within our world as the spectacular secret realm of the Titans, known as the Hollow Earth, is revealed. But otherwise, packaging's very nice, very simple, but really at the end of the day, these are meant for play, and that's why they're also not in the most crazy collector boxes. These guys are really meant to just be cut out and to be played with or displayed, and so that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take these guys out of the packaging, and we'll come right back and take a look at Godzilla and Kong and see them in action. So let's get started first with a look at the basic figures in the line. Here's our Godzilla, here's our Kong, and just to let you know, they were pretty easy to take out of the packaging. As you saw, they all had basically a really big, thick, heavy plastic strap around their waists, and then they had some smaller, thinner plastic ones that I was able just to cut out with the scissors. Didn't take very long, not that frustrating either, so that's at least nice. So here's what the figures look like. And just to give you a proper idea of size here, let's go ahead and drop in a ruler. So our Kong here, just a little bit over 5 inches, and Godzilla is about 6 inches. And probably the first thing that you're noticing about these toys is they both got some big old chunks taken out of them there. Godzilla's got a big slash across his chest. Kong has another one right in his arm there. They both come with pieces of flesh. That's really gross and cool. Who wouldn't want that as a kid? I know I would. Let's go ahead and let's put them into there. See how easy this goes in. The flesh is made of a softer rubber material, so that means it's a little more flexible. There we go, it's in Godzilla. That's really smooth and easy there. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the same with Kong's arm. You know, it's kind of gross, but kind of cool at the same time. Kong's a little bit tricky because you need to kind of push his arm to the back like this so you can make sure you get that in there, but there you go, it's in there, and it looks like it's going to stay in there pretty well. And it actually integrates pretty nicely. I mean, Godzilla's is poking out a little bit there, but that's I think more me for not getting in there better. Yeah, I need to just squeeze it in more. There we go, that's a little bit better. That actually looks a lot better now. It integrates pretty well on both of them. It's kind of well hidden. If you didn't know it was there, well, you just wouldn't know it was there. So that's pretty well done right there. I'm digging that feature. It kind of reminds me a lot of like the Primal Rage toys. They had like some more chunks missing from them too, which is also a Playmates line. And you also might notice here I've got Godzilla's tail hanging out. That was a separate piece as well. Let's go ahead and attach that to him. It looks like it's a ball jointed. Yeah, it actually is a ball joint. You can see right there, which means we're going to have a lot of flexibility with this tail piece here. Not necessarily the same amount that you get with like a NECA action figure, but we'll get something. Ooh, look at that. This tail is enormous. Yeah, as I mentioned, you know, NECA is doing Godzilla also. They just actually wrapped up the license, so whatever you see in stores now from them is going to be it for Godzilla. And their Godzilla tails have like 30 points of articulation or some absurd thing like that. This Godzilla does not have nearly that many. It's just the one, but hey, again, it's a $10 toy. I'm pretty happy with a ball jointed tail at all. Likenesses in these figures are really good too. I like these. Keep in mind, these are simplified at a $10 price point. That's how much these guys are going to cost in Walmart. But I think for a $10 figure, it's pretty darn good looking. Good face sculpts on them. Godzilla's is probably a little bit less detailed compared to Kong's. I think that's because you kind of do need more space. You need to be a larger scale figure to add more detail into him more so. And it looks like that Godzilla, by the way, has a articulated jaw. I didn't know that either coming into this. You can see that it goes up and down. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Well, my point here, though, besides me gawking over that jaw, is that sculpts are really good. I think the heads, I think the likenesses are very good. I think the bodies are good too. These are nice looking figures. Let's take a look at articulation. We've got a head that can turn left to right on Kong. Oh wow, there's actually a little bit of articulation also in Godzilla. Didn't expect that either. Kong has a ball jointed shoulder, no bicep swivel, but he does have the forearm swivel. So it's actually, oddly enough, very similar to what a basic figure is right now in WWE's Mattel line. So that's something. The wrists also not ball jointed, it looks like, but they can swivel left and right. There's no waist articulation on Kong. We've got a ball jointed thigh. We've got a ball joint in the hip there. The knee can go up and down. And that's decent. I'll take that. Godzilla, I don't expect to have much more than that either. Looks like his arms are not ball jointed. Looks like they just go up and down. No articulation there. Obviously nothing in the waist. Legs can go up and down, and that's it. But it's not like Godzilla does much more than that either, to be fair. You don't need him doing splits, so I'm fine with that. Now, Kong comes with a battle axe accessory. Let's see if we can get that into his hand. And the answer is yes, we can get it into his hand, and very easily, because the hand is made from a softer plastic. So that makes it very, very easy and convenient to get into him. And Godzilla has this blast here from his mouth, and looks like we just stuff it in there. Yeah, there's space on the top of his head to let him do that. So that's actually kind of cute. There you guys go. That's what that looks like when it's all together. You can see them battling now. For $10 figures, these are pretty nice. I do dig these a lot. There's a lot of high playability here. Good sculpting as well for the price point. We don't really talk much about paint yet, but I think the paint is fine. You're not going to get anything that crazy. I mean, yeah, you could look at like a Marvel Legends or any other figure in the $20 price point, and you're going to get a much better paint job. And you might get a better paint job from some of them, but I think they made the most out of what their costs are here. Kong does have some kind of weathering and some different shades on his fur. He's got the scratch on his chest. Godzilla is much more simple. I do appreciate the translucent blue, though, and that's why he's blown this radioactive plume right there. It's because he's charging himself up, so that's actually pretty cool. I can see these being great for kids and adults because they're playable, they're posable, and they look good, and they're very, very affordable. This is definitely going to be a good impulse item for any collectors out there. I can assure you that at the very least, that's what these will be good for. But that's the little guys. Let's go ahead now and look at the 11-inch larger scale figures. All right, here we go. These are now the larger versions. Let's just check the size and see how they actually do scale up. So yeah, Kong is right at about 11, and Godzilla, let's see if I actually get him on his feet there. Yeah, he's also just about 11. But you'll notice also, again, Godzilla missing his tail. That is because that piece is packaged separately. Here's what that looks like. This time around, it's not a ball joint. It's just going to be a swivelly joint. Let's go ahead and pop this in. There we go. And wow, I think now with the tail, it's actually even longer. It looks like he's going to be, yeah, with the tail, we're talking about an extra, easily over 18 inches now once you got the tail on there. So it's safe to say that off the bat, you guys can see there's going to be a little bit less articulation on these larger scale figures. Now, luckily for Godzilla, that doesn't really affect him that much because he was already so unarticulated the first time around. But it looks like this time his jaw does not move. The head, it looks like it's a joint in there, but it doesn't do anything. That's just basically how it's inserted in there. The arms, just up and down. He does have wrists that can turn. We've got feet now that can go up and down, and believe it or not, the feet actually do move, so that helps him with the pose. And that tail that we saw, it is jointed, but it can only swivel back and forth, so it's not going to really do much there for you. And likewise with Kong, there's even less articulation on him. The head still moves left and right, but it's a little stiff out of the box, so that's all you can do is just that. We don't have any ball joints at all in this version. The arm just goes up and down, no elbow joint. The wrist can turn, the feet, not really even up and down. This is the classic Playmates V-hinge, I guess we'll call it. It's like the old Star Trek figures used to have. And his feet can move also, so that's it for articulation. It's actually less articulation on the bigger guys, but I guess that's also because I want them to just be able to stand up more and just look cool like this. And it actually does remind me a lot of like older toys too, in that there's older King Kong and Godzilla toys that had equally just as little articulation. So I'm not going to really throw much of a tantrum over this. I wasn't expecting a lot of articulation from them because these are very much aimed for younger audiences. These are meant to be used for play. But I'm an adult collector. Does this scratch my itch as an adult collector? The answer is yes. I actually think I do like these a lot. I like that it actually reminds me a lot of those older Godzilla and Kong toys. And chances are, if you're my age, and likely if you're older, you know a lot better, you'll remember what those toys were like, especially the Godzilla. Everybody have seen that giant Godzilla. It's actually bigger than this, in fact. I think it's from the 70s, in fact. And that has like practically no articulation, but it's a wonderful, amazing toy that everybody has good memories of. And that's really what this in particular reminds me of, is just that older style figure. I think the sculpting on both these is also very good. Obviously, this time around, Godzilla can have a lot more detail, which makes this superior to the smaller one we just saw. Because we've got a much better likeness on the face, more paint in there, the teeth are more pronounced. All the scales, all that crazy detail there, much more apparent. And similarly with Kong, there's a lot more space to make the detail, so you can see just much more in the fur, a lot more detail. Really excellent. I really like this figure a lot, actually. Paint jobs are better across the board too, but oddly enough, the one thing that is missing from this larger figure is more of the two-tone paint, which you saw with the smaller figure of him. In fact, I think it's time right now to bring out our other guys too. Let's just do a big comparison with everybody here. But you can see what I mean now is that the smaller Kong does in fact have much more color application than this big one here. That's probably just coming down to the price point being a major factor in that, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more color separation in there. Likewise with the Godzilla, you can see too. Well, here's really the big key difference is these Godzillas are almost two different colors. Big Godzilla in the back is blue. There's no argument about that. Godzilla in the front is mostly black, or just a much, much darker bluish kind of gray. But for the most part, it's similar color to what we've got on this giant Kong here. Why is this one so much bluer than that one? I don't know. I mean, both of them have their lit up scales. The difference again here is that these are translucent plastic. This is just painted, and it's just kind of rubbery plastic there. So it is meant to be really the same kind of play style or same effect that's going on here. But there's a little bit more paint kind of detail in this, and of course you can never beat translucent plastics. So final thoughts on these figures. Keep in mind here, these are, as I've said during the entire review, meant more for kids. That's why these basics here are going to be priced at $10 a piece, and these 11-inch versions are going to be $20 a piece. They're much more simple. They remind me a lot more of, I guess a good example would be Hasbro's Titan series of Marvel figures, or the Star Wars ones as well. They're basically those 12-inch larger versions that have, I think, 5 points of articulation, and those are priced at $10 too. I'm sure there's plenty of adults out there who do like those and collect those, but those are meant for kids. Those are meant to help kind of keep production costs down for the companies that make them and make something good and sturdy for kids. And that's kind of the big key here. That's the main keyword I think about these figures, is these are definitely sturdy. These are solid guys. I mean, you can see as I'm looking them up right now, they're not heavy by any means, but what I mean by that is that they're going to be able to take a beating. They're going to be able to go outside. Your kids can play with them in the dirt and really smash them together, and they're going to hold up. And that's really the intent behind these. But for adult collectors, can you still enjoy them? I think so. I think especially the big ones, I think they're cheap enough that you can get them and not feel too guilty about them. Like for example, I know that Mezco is going to have a Kong figure coming out, I think also next year, and that's going to be similar size, maybe a little bit bigger, and it's going to have way more articulation, but the price is going to be way bigger than what we've got here today too. I think we're talking at least over 100 for that King Kong figure that's coming out. And that's great if you're in the market to be able to spend that much, but if you're a casual collector of this, or you just don't want to spend that much on a toy, this totally scratches the itch, all of these guys, for kids and adults, and that's why I'm really digging all four of these figures today. Now if I had to choose, I'd actually probably pick the basic line more so than these big guys here, and I like these big guys a lot. I think they're really epic and awesome looking, but the little guys are going to be cool because we're going to have a lot more selection. Even this initial wave is going to have an additional version of Godzilla and Kong, as well as 2 other monsters, and chances are that's going to be the line that grows and expands the most. Because as this monsterverse expands too, we're going to get a lot more monsters in this scale. We've already got 2 more right now. I wouldn't be surprised to see Rodan, see Mothra, and whoever else is going to be coming up in this much smaller scale. And again, at $10 a piece, I mean, that's really great. You're going to have a whole monster army for like $100. You'll get 10 monsters. I think that's a pretty solid investment. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with these things. I think you will be too if you're a big fan of the Monsterverse, if you like the classics or the new ones. Doesn't matter. They've got a lot of similarities to those older figures with these large guys, modern day articulation and sculpting play patterns in these little ones too. A lot of good things to talk about here. I'm actually very impressed with them. As we mentioned throughout this video, there are other companies that have done Godzilla, that have done Kong, and that will be doing these as well, but they're going to be way more expensive. And I'm not ready to take that leap, but I've got no problem spending $10 or spending $20 on these guys here, and I think you're going to appreciate them too. So these are the ones to get. So that's our look at the Godzilla vs. Kong toys from Playmates. The film is set to come out in May 2021, but these toys are going to be available fairly soon, available exclusively at Walmart's. The basics are $10. The larger scale figures will be $20. Great purchases all around. Highly recommend these. So go out in the wild and try and seek these big boys out. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll give this a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And most importantly, I want you guys to tell me in the comments who you think is going to win between the battle of Godzilla vs. Kong when the film comes out. So until next time, I'm Matthew. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you guys here next time on Nerd News Today.